Oh boy, big news just came out. BASS just released their ruling of what they're going to do with forward-facing sonar for the Bassmaster Elite Series for 2026 and probably for beyond as well. And let me tell you something, guys, this probably doesn't come out as a surprise to a lot of you. I could not disagree more with the decision. Let me tell you why. Before we get into my opinions, let's go ahead and read really quick what B.A.S.S just released on their press release regarding the 2026 Elite Series forward-facing sonar ruling. It says, beginning in 2026, forward-facing live sonar will only be permitted in up to 5 of the 9 regular season Elite Series events. Which events will allow the technology will be determined randomly. The remaining events will prohibit its use entirely, including during official practice. Restrictions implemented for 2025, limiting anglers to 1 live sonar transducer and a maximum of 55-inch total screen inches will remain in place. The 2026 Bass Pro Shops Bassmaster Classic presented by Under Armour will allow forward-facing sonar since all qualifiers earn their spot under the 2025 rules, which is a little bit interesting to me because we were restricted to 1 transducer in the 55 inches for the Classic this year in 2025, despite in 2024 we qualified with unlimited technology. Anyways, it says a decision follows 2 years of careful evaluation. In 2025, B.A.S.S scheduled a diverse set of fisheries to naturally limit forward-facing sonar dominance, and the winners in nearly half the season's events relied primarily on traditional tactics. Moving down, it says, BASS will reveal which tournaments will allow forward-facing during a live show September 4, 10 a.m. Central Time on Bassmaster. Tommy, Mark, and Davey will learn the results in real time alongside fans. Events will be paired according to the schedule with a coin flip, deciding which one allows live sonar and which will not. The St. Lawrence River, the final stop of the season, will receive its own coin flip, meaning as many as 5 events could end up being non-FFS tournaments. Okay, so just to kind of clarify what they're saying there, which I'm a little bit confused by. If you go on Instagram and you go to Bassmaster's page here, so it says in that release that it's going to be a coin flip to see which tournaments have it and which ones don't. But then they have another post with this forward-facing sonar fan vote that says beginning in 2026, forward-facing live will only be permitted in up to 5 of 9 regular season events. Which events allowed technology will be determined randomly. That said, if you had the opportunity to choose which events do not feature live sonar, what would they be? So you can vote. Okay, so that clears it up for me. It's just a way to get people to vote. Doesn't really matter at all. It's just a post to get some engagement, which it has 81 comments. So they're smart there. Before I give my opinion, let me just say that you guys know how I feel about forward-facing sonar, and especially when it comes to using it at the top level and where we're at with technology. I've always said that we should not stop the growth of technology, and a lot of people think that forward-facing sonar takes the skill out of fishing. And that could not be further from the truth. That actually has added a lot of skills necessary for fishing to compete at the top level. Forward-facing sonar in 2025, it's going to change, is not sentient. It's not artificial intelligence. It simply does the same thing that a flasher, that 2D, that side imaging has done for us forever, and that is it shoots a beam out and it tells us what's out there. It tells us what's coming in. It does not tell us the species of fish. It does not tell us the size of fish. It does not tell us if the fish is feeding. It does not tell us if the fish is in a negative mood, a positive mood, a carp instead of a bass, instead of a catfish, instead of a bluegill. Those things are all going to change. It is going to do that. It is going to be able to pick up exactly what species it is. It's going to be able to lock on a single fish. It's going to be able to, shoot out further and further, so you can shoot out 500 feet with a 10-inch screen. You don't have to have the big transducer. Those things are coming, and when it gets to that point, some skill will be taken out and given to the unit because it is artificial intelligence. It is not the skill of the angler to find the fish or interpret what's happening with their bait, with the cover, with the fish that are out there. At that point, I personally believe that we should pull it back. We should make some bans. We should slow things down. Right now, we aren't there. We aren't even close to it. Those improvements might come in a month. They might come in 10 years. I have no idea. Probably somewhere in between there. But we are not to the point where it is sentient in any way yet. It's simply giving us the information that is out there. That's it. It would be very easy for me to sit here and take the side and the sentiment of if you actually know how to catch fish, then you shouldn't need forward-facing sonar. Yes, I have seen that comment for years and years and years. And for anyone with a fully functioning brain that has actually used the technology or actually loves the sport and has followed it historically and can sit back and, you know, kind of have a nice level spot of thinking on it, you realize that change has always happened. Sonar change has always happened. All the different technology that has happened over the last, you know, since the beginning of the sport of tournament fishing has had a very drastic effect on everything. Just thinking about, you know, we're focused on forward-facing sonar here and live sonar. Let's think about, you know, more basic things, line, hooks. Just in the last 15 years, hooks and hook technology has just like done a 180. If you look at what happened in 2025, you know, they talked about it right there. B.A.S.S came out and said, we're doing some restrictions, which they did make a change. You couldn't have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sonar units anymore, live sonar units that is, and you couldn't have, you know, 5, 6 screens. It had to be limited to 55 inches, which was interesting. I always think it's interesting to limit technology when it's extremely important to, you know, for us at the top level to promote that technology. Anyways, we'll get there in just a second and what this means, and I'll actually tell you guys what B.A.S.S has revealed to us about the viewership numbers before making this decision as well. B.A.S.S said at the end of 2024, last season, that they made the decision they're going to limit it to 1 forward-facing sonar, live sonar transducer, and 55 inches of screen. And they're also going to make it a much more vast, a lot more variable tournament schedule, because in 2024, this season really played out to where forward-facing really dominated a lot of the events, just the way the schedule was set up. Well, this last year in the Elite Series, we had 3 tidal fisheries, 4 different types of river systems. You know, 10 Killer ended up being a flooded tournament with bush flipping and stuff like that. Should have waxed their ass more, but I didn't get on that glide bait bite until the second day of the tournament instead of the first day. But that was super fun. Again, no forward facing there. And overall, I think, you know, like the top 10 had more guys that used forward facing sonar in 3 or 4 of the tournaments than did not. And you know, 3 or 4 of the tournaments, it didn't like have any impact for more than maybe 1 or 2 guys in the top 10 at all, like none. Definitely the diversity in the schedule took away the ability to just dominate with forward-facing sonar. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. So we have seen all the comments and all the posts on Facebook and these platforms in the comments section where, you know, it really seems like the same 15, 20 people just go around and they just are losing their damn minds about forward-facing sonar in general. But the sentiment there has been, you know, we're not watching anymore. Fans don't watch anymore. The viewership numbers are a lie. It's a joke. No one wants to watch guys stare at a screen all day. And you guys have heard all the tired, lazy takes on why forward-facing sonar is terrible for the sport and for you guys, which, by the way, these takes are from people that it literally doesn't matter if Ben Milliken or Lee Livesey or Jordan Lee or any of these guys use forward-facing sonar. They're not competing against us. They're just saying things to say things because they have fingers that can move and it's somewhat of a brain to type letters into their keyboards and you know, make comments. So they're an expert, you know, in 2025. What B.A.S.S revealed to us actually was that viewership numbers are not based on any metric that they put up. They're Nielsen ratings. So it's the same rating system that's the #1 rating system that's ever been used in all of television to say what the broadcast numbers are. And the B.A.S.S isn't lying and saying, you know, every 2 minutes someone refreshes their screen. That means they get 36 viewers or something like that. It's like every 15 or 30 minutes, I believe it is, you get counted for a view. So if the same viewer's around, then it does count as more than 1, but that's the exact same metric that's always been used and always will be used for the foreseeable future with the Nielsen ratings. And guess what, guys? You know, viewership numbers have never been higher. They had never been higher than they were in 2024, and we eclipsed some of those records in 2025. And some of the tournaments that were the highest viewed, both years were Lake Fork. Both years that tournament was dominated by forward-facing sonar. You guys probably get what I'm saying here. That is that the common denominator with that tournament was people caught a lot of fish and a lot of giant fish. seems like a more entertaining product to me personally, and you guys spoke as well, the viewers, the fans, that was your favorite event to watch ever, or maybe just like a record number of people tuned in so they could go comment how much they hated it on Facebook later on that night. I'm saying that tongue-in-cheek, obviously. Hopefully you understand some of my dry sense of humor. If not, this is going to be a very difficult video for a lot of you to watch. Probably was already a difficult video anyways. But what was shared with us by the communications team at B.A.S.S was that they saw no correlation between forward-facing sonar-centric tournaments having higher or lower viewership than non. It was a lot more based on the time slot that the live coverage was slotted into, what preceded, what followed the event, time of year, what was going on weather-wise throughout the country, holiday weekend, stuff like that, etc. But there was zero correlation between if an event had a lot of forward-facing sonar, people watched more, didn't watch more, and if, again, a tournament didn't, then they watched more or less as well. So that is straight up the truth. No matter what, you know, the Karen Randy fans decide that they want to believe in all these ideas that aren't actual based on any facts, those are the facts. And whether I like it or you like it or not, doesn't matter to me. That's just what it is. So it doesn't affect viewership. I know some people don't like to watch people staring at a screen. I can understand that as well. I might want to remind you that if you take away forward-facing sonar altogether, it's not going to be everyone on the tournament throwing a frog or throwing at the bank all day. We did do something called fishing offshore long before forward-facing sonar. Those of you that have been around on my channel saw the results of that in my tournaments when forward-facing didn't exist, and how I liked to fish, which has always been, you know, isolated offshore structure and cover, and that's just the way I like to fish. It's where the big ones live, and I'm good at catching them that way. So what I'm saying is, you know, these offshore smallmouth tournaments that people are saying, you know, oh, if I got to watch another tournament where guys go on Lake Ontario and chase them around on a screen all day, I'm never watching again. Well, you know what? If we take it away, then guys are going to catch them on 2D and side imaging, which are, you know, people still use side imaging and mapping as much or more than they use the forward technology. Hate to burst your bubble there. But let's really get into the reasons why my opinion and why I disagree with the ruling. And just to predicate that, I was part of the committee, the Association of B.A.S.S Professionals group this last year. I was voted on by my group of guys, which was the first 2 years classes, my class and then the rookie class this year, the rookie and sophomore classes. Those were the guys that were in my group, and they voted on me to be the representative, and there was 5 representatives plus John Cruz was the president. And the point of forming this group was to give the anglers more of a voice, to give the anglers opinions and share them, and work with B.A.S.S to better the careers of the Elite Series anglers. Now, I loved this idea. We went and met with them. I didn't make a post about it or make a big deal about it or anything, because it's not something I wanted a bunch of freaking glory for or a bunch of accolades. It was simply something that I felt like I had a perspective that was worth valuable sharing to B.A.S.S coming from a social media background, and I did my best this last year to help with that. Now, unfortunately, I didn't share this with you guys, and I'll probably be sharing a lot of stuff the next couple weeks and months that maybe you didn't know ever about B.A.S.S or about the Elite Series and the people that are a part of the entire organization. So stay tuned for that. But what I didn't share was, you know, I found out pretty quickly that there was a huge uprising and coup of not even like half or a quarter of the anglers, a few anglers that basically all they wanted to do with this was to ban forward-facing sonar. This wasn't about making anyone's careers better. They had it in their minds that what would be best for their careers was to ban forward-facing, so these, you know, all these kids didn't keep whooping them, and we're about to see what happens with that. But it became a lot more about, well, what's our vote on what we're going to do with forward-facing? What's our vote? What's the anglers going to vote, and what numbers we're going to take to B.A.S.S? And it turned out, you know, like, half the guys, you know, it was like 70% of the guys thought there should be a change, but 70% of the guys also thought that forward-facing should remain in some capacity. Once again, unlike the fake numbers that you guys heard, I have actual data. This is what was true. We had different voting rounds, and of course votes flipped and votes changed based on who talked to who and whatever. And to draw that back, like I thought it was ridiculous we were even voting anyways. Like the 102 guys on the Elite Series don't deserve or have a say about what technology is used in these tournaments. Like we can't compete without the fans. We can't compete without statistically what is happening with the bait market, the boat market, the electronics market, and of course the viewership. So we have 102 different businesses that are going to have 102 different ideas on what we should do with rules, and especially this forward-facing sonar and what electronics are used and what practice and what should be legal, what shouldn't be legal. We shouldn't have a vote on that, in my opinion. We can vote on it. You can vote on whatever you want to, but to give the anglers like 100% say, to me, was always like not the smart thing to do when it came to what bass is about. And that is to educate and improve the sport of bass fishing, and of course make a profit, which it's not a not-for-profit company. It's a for-profit business. They're trying to make money just like the 102 or 104, separate LLC entities that are the anglers are trying to make money on this as well. From the start, I wasn't a fan of how that was, idea number one for how we're going to better our careers. It was nothing to like, we never decided in different ways that we could help, be more valuable to the company of Bass or to our own companies, or to increase our media exposure in any way to make our careers better financially, which, by the way, that's what this whole thing was pretty much about, was we need to make more money. It's extremely expensive and not extremely profitable for outside of, 5 to 8 guys to fish the Elite Series. And so we're trying to figure out, guys are freaking out about that. And now, more than ever, I hate to break it to you, here's some more facts for you. The fishing industry is hurting, and especially the tournament fishing industry, absolutely like bad right now. Someone might have predicted that this would happen post-COVID with corporations buying out all the companies and everything going downhill when people went back to work after COVID. Anyways, I digress. I think someone might have made a video about that. Maybe we'll make a part 2. Let me know in the comments if you want to see part 2, because we were up here when that was when I filmed that. Now we're here. So if you guys want to hear about what's actually happening in the industry, I'd be happy to tell you guys. So I didn't like that. I didn't think that was a good move to focus, the last 9 months, 75 or 80% of the anglers' times and ideas went towards what are we going to do with forward-facing sonar. And now here we are, September 1st, forward-facing sonar. So the biggest thing that was an issue with this to me is we are literally, as pro fishermen, I don't know if I'm fishing the Elite Series next year or not. Yes, I'm well aware that where my qualification stands right now, and there's still moving parts to decide if I'm going to be fishing it, if I could fish it next year. I know how to read, and I know how to go through standings and figure out where I stand on things. But I never liked it because, again, there is so little money at the top level of tournament fishing that we cannot handle losing out on any more payouts. And this does not affect anybody except 102 guys. So if a lot of people think things affect them outside the Elite Series, but really it doesn't. It affects the 102 guys and the company of Bass and anybody who decides they want to qualify and does qualify through the Opens, I guess, in the future is who it would affect. But it's extremely difficult to make money from fishing tournaments. And even like for the majority of guys, it's extremely tough for anything off the water as well that has to do with fishing. It's not a secret that these electronics companies dump hundreds of thousands of dollars into B.A.S.S. Now, B.A.S.S is paying out. The reason B.A.S.S is the leader, or one of the reasons, is they pay out a lot of money. They put a lot of money into the pot. That's like, I think, $4.5 million they put in this year. That money doesn't come from nowhere. That comes from sponsorships. I would assume the majority of that comes from sponsorships like these electronics companies and from host cities that host these tournaments. And we had the giant uproar last year, which again only affected guys in the Elite Series. So it was interesting how many experts on Facebook thought their opinion was super important and valuable on what payouts should be. But when B.A.S.S announced they're doing no entry fees, and it went from $8 million in the pot to $4 million in the pot, or 4.5, I'm just making it was about that. It went from 9 to 4.5, I think, because anglers about doubled it when we put $45,000 in angler in, $5,000 entry fee each tournament. It was like the anglers did 4.5, Bass put in 4.5, boom, and then the payouts were such. Well, they did the same payouts numbers. They just took the $4.5 million from the anglers put in out of it, and it was very, very ugly when we saw what that looked like. Well, guess what, guys? We're complaining that we had terrible payouts, and we're complaining that payouts have not increased over time, and now we are cutting off the hand that feeds us even more. Like, where do you think if Garmin or Lowrance, I don't know who Bass's sponsors are, it's not important to me, Humminbird, if they decide to pull out $500,000, well, why should Chase Anderson have to put $500,000 of his company's money in there to be like, oh no, we'll keep payouts the same, everything's good? That's not how this works. And it's not just electronics companies, it's mount companies, it's boat companies, it's battery companies. You know, Powerhouse Lithium, my sponsor, makes incredible batteries, and we have to have a lot of batteries to run the electronics on our boat so we can showcase them to our fans and make our trips so much more efficient. And that's what forward-facing sonar does. It makes you more efficient with your time. So that those companies hurt as well. So that, I mean, that's a lot of money going in. That's probably into the millions of dollars that is being paid each year to Bass. And those companies, I mean, bass fishing at a top level, the Elite Series and the MLF, has never been less influential to customer purchases than it is right now. And well, again, it's going down, down, down. Anglers are money making are going down, down, down. Expenses are going up, 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 and we're taking potentially. I don't know how Garmin or Humminbird or these companies could justify paying the same amount next year, or these mount or electronics or these battery companies could justify paying the same amount for our payouts next year. It's not directly, but to Bass for sponsorship. I don't know why they would. One other thing to note is, I guess Lisa told us today that 360 is not a forward-facing sonar live transducer, so guys can still have 360s. So, you know, that's something for the anglers. Again, doesn't really affect your viewing experience, other than there'll be another screen the guys will stare at and wreck your entire viewing experience for the guys that hate technology. Before I wrap this up, let's talk about one thing that's also a little bit ridiculous to me. You know, guys talk about how the fishing industry is hurting, and so what would be good for the fishing industry is to ban forward-facing sonar at the top level or altogether, because then we're going to sell more traditional baits that companies are stocked up on. You know, your crankbaits, your hard baits in general, your jigs, Texas rig stuff like that. And I own a company, a business that makes fishing tackle. I see the numbers. I can see I have a really good grasp of the industry because, again, I wear a lot of hats. I make videos. I read comments. I see how the industry is working. I know a lot of companies and people that work for a lot of companies in all different facets of the industry. I completely disagree. If hypothetically all of forward-facing sonar in the United States got banned tomorrow by the government and we had to take it all away, there is no world that I see guys going out and just like going to the crankbait pegs and just wiping them into their basket and getting on their, you know, Copper State tackle and buying every single freaking jig on there and frog. Like, that's not going to happen. If it did happen, it would also present problems because every major company in the industry has come out with a bunch of baits designed for the technique of forward-facing sonar, and then those products would not be selling either as well. So this idea that if we ban it all together and it's going to just, you know, like, boom, people are buying way more tackle now, how? They're just going to start making more money, or they're going to decide they're going to spend more money on fishing? Because that actually did happen with COVID. People decided that they had to go buy more, you know, minnows and things that are made for forward-facing sonar. It expanded their tackle box. It grew the industry. It really helped the income of a lot of companies, the revenue. A lot of companies that benefited and sold to these private equity companies that didn't have any bearing on what was actually happening and now are failing as well. Again, let me know if you want to see that video. I don't know, a lot of thoughts. I thought that this would happen. I've had my phone's been blown up with friends and people I fish with, just like, not the move, not the way to go. You know, when NPFL announced they're going to do, you know, no forward facing last year, that was like 100% tactical decision to give them a place in the industry, some market share in the industry that was very smart. It wasn't because they thought that they were like the brand that, you know, dictated what was right or wrong for the industry and the long-term longevity of the industry. That company is B.A.S S, and I think that they made the wrong decision here. I've told Chase Anderson myself that, Lisa, you know, Mercer, Davey Hyde, and Zona. Like, I've told all these people individually, Bose, that I completely disagree with it, and I've told them all this stuff. I just kind of want to get it out there. I don't think you should watch fishing or bass fishing or tournament fishing less because of this. That's never what I want. My opinions are based solely because I want what's best for the sport, because I love this sport so much, more than anything. That's why I've always wanted a job in this. That's all I wanted, was a job in this industry, because I love it so much. I've been a fan forever. I'm still a fan. I'm still fanboy out whenever I see, you know, these heroes of mine when I pull up next to them on the dock. And I think bass fishing, the last 20 years, since what a lot of people would call its heyday, from, you know, late 80s until mid 2000s, I feel like since then we've been cutting off our hand that feeds us a lot. And things, I mean, you'd be lying if you said things have gotten better and not worse when it comes to financially and just the perception. And I think this was an opportunity for B.A.S S to have something to themselves. You know, MLF has this weird format that I'm not a fan of at all, where they have one period with forward facing, two without it, and you can pick which period. It added to the confusion of their league, in my opinion, and we're adding confusion. Most importantly here, we're adding confusion to people that want to get into tournament fishing, because now they're coming in, they're saying, okay, so you have this technology that's super good. Okay, yeah, so it's too good and it's not fair game, so you banned it, right? No, we didn't ban it. We flipped a coin 5 times or whatever they're doing, and then we decided based on a coin toss if we could use it or not, because it's so good that we don't want it in all the events, but maybe it doesn't matter that much, so we're going to allow it in some events, but we also are going to make it harder to catch fish sometimes and easier to catch fish other times, right? Or maybe not. It just adds another level of confusion in what is already a sport that is extremely difficult to follow. And even if you love it, a lot of times it can be extremely difficult to watch. So I don't love it. I don't think it's a good idea. I've shared this opinion with B.A.S S, with friends, with anyone. I'm with you guys, with the hundreds of thousands of people. I'm not afraid to say my opinion. Again, it would be so much easier to sit back and say, the young guys are only good because they use forward-facing sonar, and it takes no skill. That's why they're beating the guys that have been around forever, and it should be banned altogether because it's wrecking all the fisheries, and fishing should just be the way it always has been. That'd be such an easy take. I'd have so many more people love me. I'd get so many more views, and it's just not how I feel. I don't think it's right, and I never will until it becomes sentient, until it takes skill out of it, until the skill goes to the box, to the unit you're using in a meaningful manner, which it won't be at first, but it might be soon. Then I think we should pull the reins back. Right now, ridiculous. Also, another video I'd like to share to kind of expose some things. There is a way which we could have actually taken the youth and made it much more difficult for them. There is a way to where the guys that have been around, have more experience, and have put time in across the country in these fisheries. There is a way that those guys would be able to dominate. And let me know if you want to see that video. Hit the thumbs up. If this gets a certain amount of likes, like, well, let's say if this gets 5,000 likes, then I'll share that video, because there is one very specific thing we could do to take the youth and make it much more difficult for them. If you guys want to hear what that is, if you hate me and you hate forward-facing sonar and you hate me for putting this video out and for my opinions, maybe you'd like to watch that, because I'll lay it out for you. It's very simple. Just let me know. All right, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Just kind of spitballing, telling you guys my feelings, and hopefully providing some factual information that maybe you hadn't heard or didn't know. All right, I'm out of here. Peace.